John Gibbons. We're talking transfers. It's talking transfers with a difference. We're going to talk finances today, but with obvious transfer knock-ons. Because what else would you spend your money on if it's not footballers? Like I said, it's John Gibbons. I'm joined by our resident financial expert. I'll call you Dave Powell from Reach. Dave, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate your time as ever.
Love coming in. It's the highlight of my month. Used to be highlight of every 6 months, but now it's monthly. Could be weekly soon.
Dave's normal day to be working too hard, but no such thing in Anfield Wrap. You come, you swing by. Sometimes you're just walking past and you get dragged in to do something. That is the way we operate. Lot to get through, Dave, even more than when we sort of arranged this, because this morning the Deloitte League has come up. It's come out. I do want to come on to talk about the transfer window and generally, and in fact I find it interesting that not a lot of clubs seem to be doing a lot, and sort of why is that. And then also Dave's written something this week, a little bit of an exclusive actually, about this idea that Liverpool might be looking at a documentary. So I want to talk about that. So we're going to finish on this story that's sort of growing, this idea of Liverpool doing a all or nothing style documentary, and that being a little bit more likely than maybe it looked a few years ago. So we're going to finish up on that. We're going to talk about the window. But first of all, as I say, this breaking news or this breaking report at the Deloitte League. The headline is that Liverpool have dropped from 3rd to 7th, which looks like bad news. But when you, as ever, get into the figures, it is not sort of quite as drastic as that, I think it is fair to say. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's important to note that these Deloitte Money League reports, they just focus on revenue and they don't look at operating costs. So they are basically a snapshot of what to expect really in terms of revenue from the clubs, but it doesn't say anything about profitability. But for Liverpool, they've always been financially robust and astute. They were able to weather the storm of COVID better than most. And that's continued. It's all about business building. But the revenue dip, I think you can probably attribute to a few things. The poor performance of, this is an accounting period that relates to 2022-23, so year ending, I think Liverpool's is June 2023. So it goes, the merit payments decreased, poor performance in the Champions League compared to the previous year. So whereas the likes of City for the last reporting period have had that kind of period of unprecedented success for them, Champions League, Premier League. Liverpool have, those revenues in recent years have kind of been underpinned by the fact that we've kind of got used to them doing so well in Europe, that 100 million plus that comes from it is almost seen as something as a given. But when that drops off early doors, and the same for the merit payments in the Premier League, so the merit payments in the Premier League are divvied up in terms of how well you do in the league table on a sliding scale, but you get some money from the domestic rights, you get some money from the international rights in terms of merit payments. They're pooled together, clubs receive them. Now finishing 5th last season's impactful in terms of a decrease, as is probably around £30 million worth in terms of Champions League revenue, which has decreased. But that's not to say when the accounts turn up that they're not going to be a profitable football club, unlike many of their rivals, I expect. So there is that to be said. Also, it's this year and also next year is probably going to be a similar story, because we've got a season with Europa League football, revenues diminished. And this Europa League will fall into the 2024 accounts. Yeah. So it's probably for this year and next year is probably going to be a bit flat. But the idea is the business is supposed to be robust through kind of fallow periods. So I imagine if the season carries on the trajectory it is, and better things come, potentially. A league title, more domestic cup success, a return to the Champions League, which looks, kind of, I wouldn't say foregone conclusion right now, but it looks pretty strong. Oh, we're going to win a lot, Dave, have you not heard? Yeah, all that is, all this will be, you look into the following year, and it's all about keeping you get dips, but it's all about making sure the ultimate trajectory, revenue growth is upwards, and that's what it is. In reality, it's just they've taken a couple of hits on the chin in terms of their revenue streams in the past 12 months.
Just a couple of things I want to pick up on from what you said, Dave. The first is, you mentioned that the accounts don't actually sort of come out till February. So I guess the slightly confusing thing for me, and I'm sure others, is where do these figures come from then? Because if Liverpool haven't said how much money they've made, how can Deloitte confidently say? Is it because that basically that they know what revenues you get from things like competition wins and stuff like that. Is that how it's calculated, or do Liverpool sort of have to reveal some of the finances already, and then you're working on from that?
I mean, Deloitte are one of the biggest kind of kind of firms in the world when it comes to accounting, etc. They aren't a hard and fast rule. There may be some discrepancy either side for these, but by and large, they seek guidance usually from clubs in terms of whether these figures, these estimates are correct. And I think they're usually given the opportunity to correct them if they're wildly inaccurate. But they're very often, very not often, straying much far from where the actual revenue figures are. But it is just a snapshot of in time. Accounts are always a funny one because effectively just looking at, we get really giddy about them and talk about them, but then effectively the situation now is not the situation.
Yeah.
So we just look at we're looking at last year, last summer, and thinking, good Lord, but since then lots changed. Commercially, Liverpool continuing to grow. The Nike deal value of it will only continue to grow. I mean, they've brought on board UPS, didn't they, in the past few months. That's quite an interesting one for me because the whole Nike deal the success of it is predicated upon the ability to get merchandise into people's hands with greater ease, more touch points around the globe, which they didn't really have with New Balance. So UPS is designed to try and make that whole, synergy a little easier. So that's interesting how that plays out. And obviously you've got Standard Chartered coming into play, Expedia, etc. So commercially, the club signed a lot of big deals with blue chip companies, Peloton, Google. Some of those aren't included in these current set of accounts. So I imagine wage bill is probably going to decrease this time around. So in terms of a PSR position or an FFP as kind of people call it, but the PSR position, it's only probably going to be improved for Liverpool because the balance sheet's healthy.
YouTube, press the button, become a member of the Anfield Wrap from the heart of the city of Liverpool. The best way to enjoy all your Liverpool-based videos, everything you need, every single day. It is the Anfield Wrap.